tell me your name and what city you're from.
Jim Galbraith, Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Colorado Springs. So you're with the Colorado delegation, and you came in with a plan that was for an alternative candidate.
Well, I didn't particularly come in with a plan, but the Colorado delegation did, yeah.
Did you support anybody in particular during the primaries?
Yeah, I was elected because I caucused for Cruz.
For Cruz, okay. So what was the plan then for bringing in somebody other than Trump?
Well, it wasn't a matter, for the conscience convention, it wasn't the idea that we had anyone in mind. A lot of people thought it was Kasich or Cruz or whatnot. It was the idea that you would be able to vote your conscience, and I'm sure you were at the convention when Cruz says, I recommend you vote your conscience. And that was actually kind of a feedback to us saying, you know, at this point in time, Trump is kind of a harmed nominee. You know? So let's see if we can find somebody else. That was the idea, that somebody, a white knight, might show up.
And it was your impression that Cruz was hoping that as well?
Oh, I don't necessarily think so. I think actually he was shooting for 2020 at this point. I think he'd kind of abandoned the idea that it would happen in 2016.
So what would be the actual tactics that they were planning to use to get?
Well, it wasn't particularly well organized. It was more of a praying for a miracle. A lot of people were thinking Scott Walker. So 2-3 weeks ago, before Scott Walker said that he was going to endorse Trump, that was kind of the hope that maybe something could happen there. Some people are saying Kasich. I'm not a real big fan of Kasich, but somebody, yeah.
And so it obviously didn't turn out.
Right.
How did things develop? What happened actually?
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear in the back.
Yeah. What exactly happened? Obviously it didn't turn out, but what happened?
Why didn't it turn out?
Right.
Yeah. So there were the platform committee and there was also the rules committee. You got to get going, sir?
No. I'm just listening to y'all now.
Okay, so there's the platform committee and the rules committee. The platform committee actually ended up being one of the most conservative platforms, you know, in the last 50 years. So we were thrilled about that. And, you know, you got to give Cruz the credit for that, because most people don't understand this, that we're actually down on the floor. But when Cruz was fighting in the initial rounds, he was actually putting people in place on the committees. And Trump, because he doesn't know anything about politics really, was allowing this to happen because he didn't understand the significance of that for the platform. So that's one of the reasons why we had an extremely conservative platform. In terms of the rules, it was pretty close, but most of the people wanted to see the party come together because they knew the fracturing of the party would probably end up with a Hillary nominee, and nobody wants that. Not nominee, but Hillary win. So when the Rules Committee got together, there were not enough to get the 57 votes that would have been required to open up the floor for everyone to vote their conscience, and thus we lost.
So Ted Cruz on Wednesday night, people didn't know what he was going to do, but obviously there were a lot of people there hoping that he would give a very distinct, specific endorsement of Trump. He didn't do that. What was your feeling after that happened?
I was so proud of Ted. You know, in the beginning, I was actually a Carson guy, and after Carson dropped out, I moved to Cruz because pro-life is my center issue. I mean, obviously, pro-religious liberty, pro-constitution, some things that are very important to me, but I moved to Cruz because that was the venue for me to go to help the platform maintain that pro-life plank that Trump was trying to moderate, trying to change. So at that point, when he decided to do that, I said, wow, this is so presidential. He maintains his integrity by taking this position, and he shows that he is not a person that will just bow to the pressure. I can't imagine being up on that stage and having everyone, or not everyone, mostly everyone running against him. I think that sets him up in 2020 to run very well.
It was really interesting because it was a period of about 4 minutes at the end. It was 4 minutes before the end when the boos started to come.
Yes.
And he certainly had a lot of opportunity. There was a lot of time there where he could have, on the fly, he could have decided, you know, this is not going well. I'm going to have a little bit different ending to this than I intended and just say, I endorse Trump, and there it is. It's all over. But he didn't do that.
Yeah, I think for him, his integrity is first, and that's the reason why he didn't do that. That's the other thing about it. You know, I'm sure you were there watching when Trump came down in the middle of a speech. So at that point in time, you know, started flickering in the background. You know, he couldn't see that. You've got the whips encouraging people to start booing. The spotlight comes back on Trump. It was obviously intended to show some distraction towards Cruz. I think at that point, Cruz recognized, hey, you know, I've been set up a little bit. I mean, it's not as if Trump didn't know what the speech was going to be. He'd already checked it over. So I think Trump timed it
Then
just
Trump
right.
sent out a tweet indicating just what you're saying, that 2 hours ahead of the speech, he read it. And then in his tweet, he said, no big deal, no biggie, right? So how do you interpret that?
I think everybody knew it was going on. Trump thought he would use it for his best play, and Cruz valued his integrity most. You know, if somebody, this man's from Texas that you interviewed a little bit ago, but I can tell you my kin was from Texas originally, and if somebody attacked my dad and my wife, there's no way in the world I would endorse him. That's just not the way it is. So
now we're moving into the general election. There are 3 months before November voting. Are you going to be enthusiastically campaigning for Trump?
absolutely not. I can tell you that from the Colorado contingent, there are quite a few people that will not be out helping Trump. In fact, I can tell you, because I've knocked on about 2,000 doors for local candidates, okay? And the gut feel in Colorado is this, at least from the doors I've knocked in on, and I'm from Colorado Springs, where it's the fourth most conservative or densely conservative populace in the country for a county, El Paso County. And about 7 out of 10 people say, you know, I'm going to hold my nose, I'm going to vote for Trump. And I'm talking about conservatives that are Republican, right? They don't trust Hillary, they don't like Hillary, but they're going to do it despite how fearful they are of Trump, okay? And then you get one that's something akin to, you know, Trump is the savior. I don't care what he says, I don't care what he does, it doesn't matter, I trust him, right? That kind of enthusiasm. And then you get 2 out of 10, and those 2 out of 10 take the position of, and they're usually a married woman most of the time, right? I can't vote for Trump because that's an endorsement for evil. My name goes on this, I can't do it. So if that's what the statistics actually look like in Colorado, I don't expect that's true in the Rust Belt and other areas, but probably in Utah and Colorado and areas where you have a strong social conservative bent, he's going to lose. So in the end, what does that mean to the general population? How do you get people to put bumper stickers on their cars and knock on doors if they don't believe in the man? It's not going to happen.
But then the result would be President Hillary Clinton, which you obviously don't want.
I do not want, yes.
So are you afraid that your decision and the decision of many like you to not be proactive could in itself be a factor in electing Hillary Clinton?
I think it's inevitable. It doesn't matter what I think, it's what the populace is going to do. So when we're talking, Colorado's a swing state. You know, in Texas, he's going to win Texas despite the Texans are behind Cruz, right? They're not going to vote for Hillary. But in Colorado and Virginia and states where they're swing states, you got to have somebody out there doing the work. I can tell you in 2 months I've only seen 2 Trump bumper stickers on any cars. In the last cycle, there was tons of Mitt, you know, and Mitt lost. So how can they expect people that are true, genuine conservatives, the activists are the social conservatives, and they are the ones that are embarrassed to put the bumper sticker on the car? How do you win? You can't.
Why wouldn't you, as somebody who is serious enough to be a delegate, why wouldn't you just say, okay, look, I'm going to hold my nose because I don't want President Clinton. I don't want another President Clinton. I'm just going to go for it because it would be much worse if I didn't.
Well, it comes back to an integrity issue. First of all, you got to look at 2 things. You want to win the battle or you want to win the war. Okay, for me, the war is conservatism. If you lose conservatism because you choose Trump, then you may win in this cycle, and maybe you get a SCOTUS. Hopefully, I'm praying that Trump is actually going to honor his word as he promised, and he's going to choose a Scalia-type SCOTUS member. Doesn't mean he will. He's obviously broke other promises and has not been good with his word. But I'm praying that he does. If he does, then great. But in the end, the people don't trust him. The conservatives don't trust him. So if they don't trust him, they're not going to vote for him. So we go door to door. And for example, when I'm knocking on doors, okay, and I say, like I mentioned a minute ago, I say, are you going to vote for him? Who are you going to vote for? Well, he's bringing down our ticket. Darrell Glenn is a fabulous potential senator. He's our nominee for the Republican Party. And if Trump wasn't down in double digits, Darrell wouldn't be down 6 points. If we had Scott Walker running right now, for example, probably Cruz would be up 2 or 3 points, and Scott Walker would probably be right on the bubble. But when you have somebody that people don't trust, they're not going to get out the vote. So it's falling down around him in Colorado. Now, like I said, it may be different in other states like Ohio and Pennsylvania. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
So when you talk about winning the war, you're saying you're willing to take losses for the next 4, possibly 8 years of Hillary Clinton. You're willing to do that for the sake of.
Well, this is the way I
winning the
look
war.
at it. You know, like in football, sometimes you have to stand down a season to get the right pick because you want to win a player that you wouldn't get otherwise. Well, 4 years and potentially some SCOTUS picks that to be honest with you, I have a hard time believing he's going to come through with those and really make them conservative. If we knew that for sure, yes, I would do it. But the problem is he started with his sister. That was the first woman that he said that he was going to follow up. She's not pro-life. And then he gives us a list of 11. And then the next day, within 24 hours, I said, well, which is going to be your first pick of the 11? And he said, oh, no, I'm not going to choose one of those. It's going to be something like a type of one of those. Well, where's the accountability in that? Why doesn't he just go ahead and commit? This is what I've been saying for the last month. I said, look, I can get behind Donald Trump if he will just promise to give me one pick off that SCOTUS list of 11 and say I will resign if I don't. I haven't yet to see it. I haven't seen an apology to Ted Cruz yet either. So I'm just looking for something to show me some tangibility.
There's some who would argue that we've had 8 years of fundamental transformation, as Obama promised before he took office. And 4 years even, let alone 8 years of Hillary, would more or less cement that fundamental transition for a generation. You're talking about Supreme Court picks. It could be 30 years that one of those picks would serve in a court that right now is 4-4 divided. With Trump, at least you can roll the dice and there's a chance. With Hillary, there's no chance you will get a Scalia. So how would you argue, somebody who's saying, look, we don't have another 4 years. We understand the whole concept of the war, but the war could be over before the next 4 years is up.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I'm not working against Trump, and I'm not working for Hillary. I'm just saying this is why we came to the convention, is for the values, and we got turned away. We I could go on a list of different values. He appears to be a fiscal conservative. He brings that to the table, maybe. But when it comes to free trade and when it comes to decreasing taxes, I don't see a whole lot of policy. I just hear a lot of empty words. I would really like to see him follow through on the fiscal conservative side. On the social side, he showed up with the oppositional. He actually pushed the LGBT agenda. And he didn't show up speaking how he was going to defund Planned Parenthood. My number one issue. How can I be excited about that candidate?
So after all of that, you're now ready to go back home. Are you feeling, just tell me in general how you're feeling.
About going back home?
Yeah.
the general feeling is, well, I go back home, get back to work. We got things like Proposition 69 we got to fight. We got to push for the down card candidates that likely will lose because of Trump's negative influence. But I want to go and help Daryl get elected. Disappointed, of course, but I wasn't expecting the miracle to happen, just kind of hoping it would.